Hey, you guys. Amanda here. Rebels against government, no end because we don't like nuts in our government. I am here today to discuss a little bit of evidence that I have concerning the harassment in the schools that me and my family have been forced to endure. It really went way much further than the school, but that's basically what I'm going to focus on tonight. Okay. I'm going to start with a brief overview of my life here in Bastrop, Louisiana, which is where I'm from. Been here since I was about 6 years old. I was legally emancipated about the age of 15. I was institutionalized and drugged. My mother said I was suicidal. I was not. That happened about 15 years old. Some other bad things happened, but we're not going to go into that. I was drugged and left for dead on Smith Street, and I was impregnated with my son in Balkanville. I did Guy Barr's campaign for mayor of Monroe, Louisiana, when he ran against Jamie Mayo before Jamie Mayo went in. I had college fraud that occurred during that time that has prevented me from obtaining a degree since then. I had a black widow spider bite 2 weeks after my daughter was born, which was my second child. I had to divorce my husband because the state told me I had to because of something my first son had said. And that was during the black widow spider bite time. I had a lot of life insurance on me. They started drugging my son against my wishes. He said there were bugs in his head. He is permanently disabled now at the age of 22 because of that. I was prevented from leaving when State Farm left Monroe, Louisiana. 2010, I was working in a small law firm there because I was very, very educated. I should have done big things, but I was prevented from doing so. 2010, there was a huge theft. My uncle had died. My aunt died. There was a lot of deaths. There was a theft, a large theft. A state police, off-duty state police, wrecked into my Honda. I was not in my vehicle, thank God. He was my mother's neighbor, and I do believe it was intentional, and I do believe it was tied to the theft. 2015, I stood up to the Department of Education, the school, over the drugging of my son. I filed a complaint with the Department of Education, and I left the state of Louisiana. I went to work in another state. I held a Confederate flag rally in Vicksburg, Mississippi. I had about 400 people show up. They sent a big wig from the Army to try to intimidate me and asked why a white supremacist was having a rally. And I informed him there were 3 Confederate graves there, whether he liked it or not. I was coming. He didn't like that. But anyway, they gave me a permit for free, and we had a rally, and it was a peaceful event, and it was all good because nobody there was racist. That's not what it was about. It was about the First Amendment. And we prayed for the Tennessee fallen recruits that had been shot. That was something that happened. At the same time, it was not planned, but it happened. So we dealt with that there. I went to Colorado. I was in a HARP seminar where they were discussing the cloud seeding projects off the coast of Florida. It was an experiment that was going on, and my house flooded in Louisiana. That happened, really. I worked in Wyoming, went around Nebraska, Kansas, Idaho, all that. The flood happened. My house flooded in Louisiana in 2016, March. I stuck around in Wyoming and tried to work because I knew I wouldn't be able to get anything done anyway. There was a lot of fraud that was committed while I was gone. Found out it was because of my mother. Anyway, as soon as we got back in December 16th, we were in a wreck. My daughter hit the dash. They claimed she had post-concussion syndrome. I don't know if she did. I don't think everything come from the wreck myself. I was injured. I'm permanently injured. I have cartilage damage in one of my hips, and I have an unstable disc in my lower back from that wreck. We were hurt, and I was in the process of trying to rebuild my flooded home. It was a pretty bad time. We had some thefts. Anyway, I went to work for this attorney here in Bastrop for a little bit of nothing because I just had a wreck, just come back to town. It's a poor town, poor dump town, no lie. And I wanted to help the girl. And basically, my daughter went with me to New Orleans to defend the Confederate monuments. They were pushing racial propaganda in the schools during this time. I spoke to someone and they got a lot of the story mixed up. Okay. They didn't get it accurate at all. But the racial propaganda was being promoted to our children. That part was 100% accurate. And it was published in Judicial Watch. Well, this pissed an attorney off in my town, but I really don't care because this attorney helped run the paper mill out anyway. But he he had me wrongfully terminated from my job without pay. He had my daughter wrongfully expelled without enough suspensions to do so, no violent acts whatsoever to cause it. The principal during that time ended up resigning shortly after this occurred. My daughter was thrown into a Fresh Start program where they began to falsify absences. And we got thrown into a courtroom in front of a judge that had previously stolen $10,000 in 2010 from me. Okay, we go through there, and I started taking screenshots of the attendance because I realized they were denying her any educational material. We had actually been made to sit in the hall on the floor because of racial crap going on inside the room. She was denied any educational material. And I realized they were falsifying the attendance. So I started taking pictures of the attendance to cover our butts because she had already been in there um, well past the 30 days she was supposed to be there before she could return to her rightful school. Well, I finally proved it and forced their hand. Her school would not let her come back. So before I took her to the other school, the high school in town, I sent the Department of Education a letter 2 hours before I took her to school and let them know that she was being forced to go to a school that she did not know. She did not have uniforms for. I was very concerned. I felt like something was going to happen to her just because of all the falsification and all the harassment and all the bull crap. And it did. Within 2 hours of getting there, my daughter was assaulted. They sent her, they had a note for the 7th hour class to go to a different classroom, and she did. And she had her cell phone with her. And I told her when I dropped her off, go to the office if anything happens because she didn't have on their uniform. The principal was unavailable when I had to bring her because he had been maced by a parent and a student a week prior because he had followed them out to the parking lot. He had no business following them out to the parking lot, period. But anyway, he had been maced and he was out. So this teacher grabbed my daughter, who had been injured in the car wreck, by the book bag. She went to the other door. She tried to go out the other door to get to the office because she didn't understand what was going on. And he jerked her. When he jerked her, she turned around and raised her hand, but she did not strike him. There was no hit. There was no assault of a teacher, no nothing. Well, she goes out into the hall and sees the principal and an officer at the front doors of the school because it was literally just about time for school to get out. And so instead of going towards the office, she went towards them out the door. And when she comes out the door, she's screaming and trying to tell them what went on. She gets maced, slammed to the ground, put into a cop car, and taken to the police station, where they're laughing about her spitting up blood and wanting to know how that article got written. My child, her pants were torn, her leg was bloody and bruised and swollen. They put her in handcuffs. My daughter had bruises to her wrist. My daughter had been maced in her throat. She vomited blood for 2 days. I had to take her to the ER. We get past this. I finally just resorted to, this is my email to the Department of Education's 2 hours prior to the assault against my child. I have all the documented falsified absences. I have the suspensions forms where they literally say this is her first suspension. They didn't have enough to expel her. They had none of the recordings from the meetings. They said they only had the recordings if they were contested. And I pulled up the letter where I refused to sign. I literally wrote refused to sign on the bottom. Okay. After I just completely removed her from school after this event, I mean, there was no way she was going back, period. They were going to make her go back through the Fresh Start program. And after what all had happened, we just absolutely did not feel that was the thing to do. So I got her GED. We did at home for a year, got her GED, got her driver's or her permit and license. I put her in a vehicle, got her started with a job. While she's at this job, she starts getting tickets out the wazoo, like 8 or 9. Set up drug event, illegal impound of a vehicle. And during that time, I had busted her father, who had been neglecting her entire life, with a $150,000 a year income. So they had awarded us child support of about $1,000 a month. Police got every penny of it with the illegal impounds and the tickets and all the bull crap. Okay. During this time, mind you, I had been wrongfully terminated. So therefore, I had to file suit against my employer, which I won. The judge violated my rights in the courtroom. He disqualified my attorney without a hearing. I did the judicial complaint. That was founded, all that. I also did some research into the people that were harassing me. Our FINS director. Have you ever heard of a family in need of services? I am Omega. Guess what Omega did? We're tied to the Black Caucus. Omega PSI fraternity. They did the Trayvon Martin rally at ULM. They have Slam Fest, just some really very, very alarming bloody henchman videos, things like that. If you look up that Omega PSI PHI fraternity, you're going to see some really inflammatory videos, like bloody stuff. The animal chapter, just sick stuff. Anyway, they also, after I got through all that stuff with my daughter, we then went to court and they wiped out my ex-husband's child support arrearages. He filed bankruptcy and they did all that. I was also being slandered online by a school board member and her husband, who was running for office in Shreveport, Louisiana, by the name of Craig Bealey. I have police reports. I have actual evidence and documentation of every bit of it. I screenshot all of it, and I don't think anything was ever done. Matter of fact, they tried to say that I was the aggressor when I never said anything. I just filed police reports, left it alone. They said I was the Klan. I was a white supremacist. He was running for office in Shreveport, Louisiana, and she was holding office. They had just gotten married like a month or two prior to this occurring. And she was doing a lot of racial division in our school board. It was on the radio and everything else. Like, a lot of people were upset about it. So I just filed my police report, and then I promoted Veronica Tappan for our school board because she had been in the school when I was in school, and I knew she was a good woman. He just said, we're just going to make you KKK lovers in Morehouse Parish famous. I'm glad to know the white supremacists of Bastrop support Ms. Tappan. That's what somebody running for office was saying. And there's nothing racist or anything else about me at all. Matter of fact, there were a lot of black people in the Confederacy, and they were actually the backbone of it. I support them more than I do anybody else, to be honest with you. I just wanted to touch base with that. I'm now dealing with harassment against my son. This has been going on for a while. We had severe, when I went to Shreveport June 2020, there was severe terrorism. They made a fake messenger on me that was very racist and ugly, but I never sent it. Matter of fact, the girl actually messaged me a year later, and it showed where we had never had any contact together. So that proves that I never sent that message. I don't know how they did it. I know they were remote accessing my home computer. They had gotten into my cell phone. They were spoofing it. So, I mean, I can't tell you. She may have really got that message. I don't think she did. I think it was made strictly for having me targeted. And it was severe, you guys. I'm talking like thousands. And they were from the colleges. It was literally organized terrorism, gang stalking. And it got severe. I've had over $40,000 worth of property damage to my home. I had bullets in my roof. I have been unable to work, and my emails have been suppressed, and my cell phone, my communication has all been tampered with for 2 years. But I've survived. I've mowed yards. I've cleaned houses. I opened a bait shop. You know, I'm still like, hey, I'm here. Anyway, I recently took a job. I changed my phone number, got a new SIMS card, did everything I could. Okay. And so I got a new job. It was way less money than I wanted and what I'm qualified for. And this person did have ties with a former employer that wrongfully terminated me. I didn't sue her for the wrongful termination. I just sued her for the unpaid wages because she didn't have anything. I wasn't going to go for wrongful termination, even though I could have, and I would have won because there was no basis for it. She slandered me afterwards, period. There's no other ifs, ands, or buts about it. But my son, I put him back in school. I had taken him out. He was there the first month of school. We were getting death threats. I was getting email communication and cell phone communication altered. I wasn't getting my messages. There was a lot of crazy stuff going on. But he kept ending up in ISS. And these events were not being documented. Like one, a kid had told him he wanted him to hit his head when he walked out the door. And my son was being a smart aleck and said, "So you want me to kill myself?" And they said he wanted to kill himself. So he ended up in ISS for that. He was copying a book, and I looked at it, and my son can't read. I mean, that's upsetting to me, but he does have brain abnormalities. So, I'm halfway understanding of that part, even though they promoted him to sixth grade, even though he didn't pass the fifth. Um, but he was copying this book, and in this book, you guys, I started reading what they had him copying in ISS. If somebody had a seen that and not known that he couldn't even read what it said, they would have thought he was violent or he was a shooter. And so this really concerned me because I'm like, why do they have my son writing out things like this in a suspension classroom? Then he ended up in there again for a black boy told him he had the right to say the N word that day. And so then the white boy got in his face calling him the N word repeatedly. And he finally called it to him back. He was the only one suspended. All right. There was like multiple events. He got accused of trying to start a fight between students. He didn't try to start a fight. It never occurred at basketball tryouts. They would not let the parents in there. So there are no witnesses. There was only this coach versus kids. Okay. They were also falsifying attendance. And I did catch them on that multiple times, not just a few. And they were falsifying tardies. The child would be there at school on time, get on the bus, get off, have to go to the bathroom at one certain time every day. Got a doctor's note for it because he's got short gut. There was like 12 tardies. Okay. I'm a responsible parent. I get my child to school on time. I help my child with his projects. I've homeschooled my child for 2 or 3 years. I'm very educated. Okay. It was very, very frustrating. So we also had an accident during that time where the guy tried to push us into a light pole, me and my son. So he was scared to ride in a vehicle for about 3 months, after he wouldn't sleep in his own room for about 3 months because we had bullets in our roof. So therefore, I took him out. He went to school for about 4 weeks, and I took him out of school because he stayed in ISS the entire time. They had all these plumbing problems, all this crazy stuff was going on, and the death threats and the communication. I just felt it was best. I took him out, started homeschooling him. Well, I fixed my phone and got a job. So I'm like, hey, my kid's going to go back to school. We're going to get back to normal. I'm running for office again this year, by the way. After everything I've been through, I don't see why I shouldn't. And I've already been through it. What else are they going to do to me? Anyway, so I thought everything's going to be normal. We're going to do this. Well, it lasted 3 days. 3 days, you guys. My child was suspended. The same 2 kids that did the N-word incident talked him into bringing something to school that he shouldn't, and he did, and he admitted to it. I don't know how it got in my house. I have had people coming in my house. I've had people going through my mailbox. My aunt caught people at my house. I caught people at my house. The police never seemed to catch them, but, we live out in the middle of nowhere, so it takes them a little while to get here. Anyway, he took something to school. He got suspended for 5 days. I'm like, okay, you did it. You're guilty this time. So you're going to actually, suffer the punishment. And so I called about him going back to school. He should have went back on Tuesday because Martin Luther King was a holiday. Suspension was 5 days. Why? I have no idea it was that long. But anyway, the guy says no, Wednesday, not a day before. And I'm like, okay. So I sent him to school this morning on the bus. About 10, 9:30, I get this gut-wrenching feeling, okay? And so I go up to the school because I seen where they had tried to call me while I was at work on Tuesday. And I find out that they marked him absent on Tuesday when I was specifically instructed for him not to come until Wednesday. This upset me because we had all the prior instances of the falsified attendance and tardies and all that mess. So I'm like, okay. Then I find out that my child is in ISS because the day he come back, this same person that was administering the discipline as far as the suspension and whatnot had informed this other child that my child was the reason he was in trouble. These two boys have been friends since the 3rd grade. Grady hadn't been there in 5 days. He hasn't told them anything about this kid because that kid wasn't the one that did it. This kid starts pushing him in the hallway as soon as he sees him. My child pushed him back one time. He ended up in ISS today. So I have removed my child from school again. I love you. Love you too. And I will be forced to homeschool again. I don't want to. I look tired. Can you see this on me? My makeup doesn't look that good. But I've been working all day and I've had to deal with my kid harassment and everything else. I have all the documentation. I'm about to do another harassment and retaliation complaint to the Department of Education, but they're talking about doing away with the Department of Education. This particular school is now a charter school, and the person that is doing the targeting and organizing the targeting, I don't want to say this. I don't want to say it anyway, because, I mean, I've just dealt with too much not to. I believe he's Black Lives Matter. I believe there is a reason for the harassment. My job I'm currently doing, I have someone there that is editing my paperwork to try to make me look incompetent. That's happening. I've had theft through the court system, through extortion. My Rebels Against Government page with 156,000 likes ended up being a nonprofit for an Air Force veteran. How's that happen? I do want justice. I do want something done, but my main focus right now is to be able to work, be myself, and have my child obtain an education. I can't send my child to school. If they continue to falsify absences, falsify documentation, intentionally stage events for my child, he's going to end up like my daughter. My daughter's still going through it. There was a child put into my home during my campaign. I ran for Louisiana Secretary of State, by the way. I got 80,000 votes, even being completely censored and banned. That was 2019. I'm about to do it again. But all this has happened. It's documented. I'm not joking about any of this stuff. Okay. Do you understand? Like, everything I say, I can back it up 100% or I won't say it. So anybody that tries to dispute the accuracy of my complaints, I can slap you with a book and let you know, hey, it's a no-go. They were falsifying attendance on my son back when they were harassing my daughter. And I verified it. Tell me how somebody's going to get conduct marks on dates when they're not supposedly at school. That was happening too. I'm just telling you. Everything I've said, I will not say it unless I can prove it to be true. I'm not stupid. I don't do slander. I'm not trying to slander anybody. I just want people to be left alone. I want to be left alone. That's all the Confederates wanted back during the war, was to be left alone. Anyway, I'm doing my harassment and retaliation complaint. I just wanted to show you guys some of my documentation. Like, literally, when I say documentation, I got it all. I got screenshots of it all. I actually went through the proper procedures. I received 5 certified letters in one day back when I defended the monuments in 2017. That judge that wiped out the child support, she violated the Supreme Court ruling by not counting me as a party to the child support hearing. They stole $10,000 in 2010, and another $10,000 was wiped out, and he was already only set to pay like $400 a month, and he was making $150,000 a year. Her whole life. 18 years old. And they had diagnosed her with post-concussion syndrome, and they wiped him off child support. He refused to go through and do the suit against the school system for what was being done to his child. He didn't care. Which I'm not surprised. I mean, he didn't help raise her. He was absent emotionally, financially, everything. But that's what I got. It's going to be an uphill battle, you guys, but guess what? Amanda never gives up, and I'm going to do it. Y'all have a good night. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate you.